Delmarva Studios proudly presents The Weekly Retro, starring Gunnar and George. The Weekly Retro is a podcast that takes a lighter look at life, from the 80s to today. We talk about classic music, classic TV, and classic movies that we all loved growing up. We also talk about how life has changed over the last 40 years, for the good and not so good. Send your questions, comments, and concerns to theweeklyretro@mail.com. Without any further ado, here are your hosts, Gunnar and George. What's up, everybody? Episode 1, The Weekly Retro. I'm your host, George, and with us today, and as always, is...
Gunnar.
Gunnar, what's up, dude? How you doing?
Pretty well, man. Pretty well. How are you?
Good, man. Hey, before we get started with the formal intros, let's just remind everybody it's a weekly podcast, and if you want to check us out, more about the show and our recommendations, you can go to theweeklyretro.com. theweeklyretro.com. You can check out our songs of the week, movies of the week. There's a chat room in there, lots of things to do. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or want to join the show, send us an email to theweeklyretro@mail.com. That is theweeklyretro@mail, not gmail.com. So let's kick this thing off, Gunnar. How do you want to do this?
Let's do the This Day in History.
This Day in History. Gunnar's going to kick off This Day in History. What do you have for us today?
All right. So this day, April 21st, back in 1984, Michael Jackson's 37-week stronghold at the number one spot on the Billboard charts was finally knocked off his perch by the Footloose soundtrack. So 37 weeks, that's pretty impressive. I nary say that you would ever see something like that in today's music, but who knows, man? But that was pretty impressive. Not a huge Michael Jackson fan. I will say that album in particular, there were a few numbers on it that I did like. But 37 weeks, knocked off by Footloose.
By Kenny Loggins, huh?
Yes. Yep.
Amazing. So Thriller came out in 83?
Thriller came out in 83. Yeah, so 37 weeks. That's actually, wow. That's actually, my math is correct. That's
2/3 of the year.
Yeah, 7 months. 52 weeks in a year, 37 weeks. So you're talking 15 weeks shy of a year.
Wow. And if you're not old enough to remember that, I mean, 83 was a banging music year, but that album had what? PYT, Billie Jean, Thriller.
Want to be starting something?
Beat It.
Let's see.
It was one after another. And that 83 had some heavy hitters. They had Def Leppard's Pyromania was 83.
Yes. I believe, and you are probably more of an expert on this. I really enjoyed this next band I'm going to mention. You know a little bit more about them than I do, but I believe Duran Duran's Seven and the Ragged Tiger was 83.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Indeed.
Also an excellent album.
Yeah, because but I think it bled into 84 because do you remember they used to have the MTV Friday Night Fights, the video fights? They would play two videos and you'd call in to vote for the one you like?
I was a deprived child, George. I did not get cable until I was probably about 18. I was that kid who kind of sat there on the, out in the smoking court. Everybody talked about, hey, did you see Thriller? I actually did not see the Thriller video until it was out a good year or so.
Oh, no kidding.
So, yeah, I was deprived.
So you guys were doing it on the old antenna?
Yeah, exactly.
So you got your CBS, your ABC, your NBC?
Correct.
Channel 17, Philadelphia.
Channel 17. Yeah, 17, 29, and the last one?
29. Well, 48. I mean, PBS, right?
48.
Was 48 PBS?
And PBS, which is, I believe, Channel 12.
Yeah. What was Channel 48? I don't remember that one.
48 was a Philadelphia channel, but I can't remember what their call sign was. But they actually right before cable kicked in, they actually went defunct. I don't know if you knew that. They 29 was still it was a Fox channel. It did very well, but yeah, 48 after a while went belly up.
Wow. Yeah, and Channel 17, right?
Yes. And then they became the WB. So
oh, that's right.
A lot of our outside listeners are like, "What?"
Yeah, let's get to that real quick, and then we'll get back to that. The reason we're doing the show, we've known each other since what, 84?
84. Yes, sir.
We went our separate ways after high school. I mean, we didn't really go our separate ways after high school. We worked at some of the same places, and we remained close. But in the mid '90s, I guess we did go our separate ways. I joined the Army, and I think we kind of still remained in touch, didn't we?
We did. I know I sent you a couple recorded material that I thought you would enjoy when you were stationed. Somehow I got your address. I can't remember if I called your mom. I think that's what I did, and I can't remember. I know you were overseas, and I remember I sent you, I believe, a Robert Plant.
Yeah, that was during Desert Storm. I wasn't in the active Army yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was 91. You sent me Robert Plant's Manic Nirvana, I think, or maybe Now and Zen.
Yeah, it was Manic Nirvana, and we would go a little while without hearing from each other, but we always somehow seem to touch base with each other, and good friends. You may part for a brief period, but you always find time to reconnect. And I will say, probably in the last 9 months to a year, we've really, really reconnected and really forged a friendship that's 30 going on 37 years strong. So it's been a great ride. I'm thrilled to do this with you. And I think you're going to agree with this 110%. You turn on the TV. I am personally, we talked about this yesterday, I am personally trying to take a step back from, the news, especially the TV. There's so much negativity. There's so much darkness. There's so much, angst and, anxiety across the nation. You are going to agree with this. Our goal for this show is to bring, fun, some lightness, some, reminiscing, and just overall good times, and talking about music of old, which me personally, 80s was the greatest decade of music. Now, it's funny because, as a teen, my mom would always say, back in the 50s and the Elvis and this and that. And I thought, what?
Frankie Valli ruled.
But now that I am an adult and I'm, 50 something, I look back so fondly on the 80s. It was definitely the decade of the one-hit wonders, but like you mentioned a few of them on the top of the show, there were just some killer records that came out. You mentioned Pyromania. That album for me, was the start of my teen years, and it rocked. And I remember my brother bought the LP. He had it on vinyl, and I used to sneak down in his room, and when he was, outside or over a friend's house, and I'd take it up in my room and jam to it. It was a fantastic record, but that was the start of many. So I just wanted to start that off by saying that, our job and our goal, we're not looking for, personal recognition. I think we're doing this for the love of the 80s. We grew up, we graduated in the 80s. High school was in the 80s. Our first girlfriends was in the 80s. It was just
mine was in the 70s. What are you talking about? My second grade teacher was my hottie, 1976.
I will top you on that one. I remember being in kindergarten and seeing my future first grade teacher, Mrs. Smith, and I was in love. I was smitten instantly.
But yeah, the 80s were awesome, man. The 70s are a close second. I was listening to Baker Street earlier, Jerry Rafferty. That screams 70s with that saxophone. But yeah, man, we had a good ride. We loved high school, and we actually, this is not our first venture together. We did a TV show back in the, what was it, 92 or 93?
91.
Was it really 91?
It was, and don't ask me how I remember this, but I remember U2's Octung Baby was charting. It had just been released. Don't ask me how I remember that, but I remember driving to the TV studio up on Route 13, jamming to that song with my cassette deck. And, we did 2 shows. I don't think we made it to a third.
No, we didn't. We interviewed boxer Dave Tiberi, who had a champion belt stolen from him, from Andrew Toney. Or actually, Toney was the champion. Tiberi should have won it, but he wasn't. Shocker, boxing's fixed. And then the indoor lacrosse team, the Philadelphia Wings, I think we had their goalie and the head coach.
Yeah, Dallas
Elliott,
Eklund, I think.
Dallas Elliott.
Yeah.
Definitely the highlight of their life.
Coach.
I'm sure every night they sit back and drink a beer. They remember the time they were on our show.
And we were just saying just last night the change and how technology is where it is today 30 years later. It doesn't seem like 30 years ago.
No, not at all.
So, but yeah, we intend to, cover, new topics every week, try new things. And, we just ask for your patience, and we're going to do our best to deliver a great show to you week in and week out.
Yeah, if you're looking for hard hitting opinions on the Derek Chauvin trial, go somewhere else. There's 5,000 other outlets doing that. We're here to have a good time, take your mind off. And we're going to have a lot of fun. I actually, when I was putting this up, I was like, should I put it in comedy or leisure? I said, let's do an episode first. I don't know how funny we're going to get. I don't know how funny we are, but we're at least going to, we're going to try to take your mind off this crazy world we're living in right now. But what is your one memory? When you think of the 80s, what is the one memory that you first go to when you think of the 80s?
I think the memory that transcends and resonates the most with me, I would have to say, for me, a date that lives in music infamy, and that would be the day of July 13th, 1985.
Live Aid.
Yes, Live Aid. The simulcast with John F. Kennedy Stadium in Philadelphia, PA, and streaming on the other side of the ocean at, I believe, Wembley Stadium in London.
Yep. Phil Collins, remember he did a show there in Wembley, then he hopped on the Concorde, which is no longer in service, and then he zipped across the ocean and performed that night in Philadelphia.
Yes. Performed with the temporarily reformed Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and Phil Collins played drums. Do you happen to remember who accompanied him on drums?
I want to say it was the guy who played drums for the power station. Was it Tony Taylor?
Thompson.
Tony Thompson.
Yeah, God rest his soul. He
man,
passed,
that guy.
A number of years ago, but loved his style. He played very heavy.
Tony
very
Thompson was
Bonzo-like.
banging.
He had a very hard, very heavy sound, and I think that's what it really got me to listening. Another great album, Power Station, 1985. Some Like It Hot, Bang a Gong, Murderous, some great tunes. So we're going to get into a lot of that. But yeah, that for me, Live Aid. I remember being on the bus going to school and them announcing that on WMMR in the morning and saying there was going to be a concert like no other, and it was for famine relief. And I remember tuning in, going into my bedroom, shutting my door, turning the TV on at 9 a.m. Do you remember the first band that started, what took the stage?
I think it was the Hooters, because they were the local act, right?
Correct.
And I heard some people weren't happy that they were.
Well, Bob Geldof, who was the brains behind the whole thing,
that guy.
He organized it, set up the venues, did a lot of the legwork. So you got to give him credit for that. But he was highly and used some very colorful language to not only describe the band, but he felt almost offended. Like, who is this band? It's only been out barely 6 months, taking my stage first. And, they rocked it. I remember them coming out. And then I think right after that, I believe, was Ozzy Osbourne with Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
And then I want to say third was Madonna, who was kind of early in her career at that time.
Yeah, before she went crazy.
Yeah, before she, we won't go there.
By the way, folks, if you're listening to this, we're not going to drop F-bombs or anything like this because we know a lot of people like to listen to podcasts in their car and their kids. And I've been there before when you're listening to something and then some language drops and you got to stop. We're going to have fun. It will be a little risque, but we won't drop any F-bombs. So feel free to play this in your car.
Yeah, with your kids in the back seat.
Yeah.
Daddy.
By the way, kids.
What was that word he said?
Write down mommy's credit card and send that to the weekly retro at mail.com. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but Live Aid I don't know, man. That was just an amazing day. And I can honestly say, with the exception of maybe taking a couple bathroom breaks and a lunch break, I watched from start to finish. And it was just and Queen and who was spectacular.
One of the most memorable music. Yeah, that was all. Do you remember how hot that day was?
Well, and we talked about this. It was so hot how hot was it? It was so hot that they periodically, at least in Philadelphia, I don't know if it was the same in Wembley. I don't believe it was, but it was so hot in Philadelphia that they turned on a massive hose, and probably the first 10 to 12 rows of the crowd got hosed down because it was sweltering. But it didn't stop the people. If I do remember right, they had close to 100,000 people packed in JFK. So I never had the good fortune of attending a concert there. We're going to touch base on my almost opportunity that I had in a future show. But I never had the good fortune of seeing there. I don't know if you ever did, George.
No.
But they say it was a fantastic place to see a concert. But from what I hear, people who went there, it's a day that they'll never forget. So
yeah, the football team. What was the name of that football league from this? The World Football League, the original one. I think the Philadelphia Bells played there in like 73, 74.
Okay, I thought you were referring to the U.S.
No, that was the Philadelphia Stars.
But yeah, I'm not aware of that. It sounds like you know a little bit more about that than I do, but I didn't hear about that. But yeah, different. And I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Philadelphia Eagles did play there briefly, maybe a season or two, but I could be incorrect on that.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me one bit.
But yeah, so what are your thoughts on that day? Did you watch all of it? Did you watch a portion of it? Did you watch here and there?
I watched most of it. The back porch we had, that glass porch, I had a TV hooked up. It would have been so sweet to have the technology we had today, with the sound bars and stereo, and
your high def TV.
Yeah, that stuff was coming through an old 80s TV speaker, a 19-inch TV where could you imagine watching that live today on a 70-inch flat screen with a sound bar?
Yeah, it'd be epic.
Yeah, I got the DVD. Was it 10 or 12 or 15 years ago? It's a 4 or 5 DVD package, and it's amazing how they were able to save the sound, because now I can put it in the DVD player or whatever, and it sounds great.
Well, and I could kick myself because I'd probably say a year or so ago, I saw it on eBay, brand new sealed copy, and they wanted about $125 for it. And I thought, okay, this would be great to have. I just can't part with that kind of money. And it is going for anywhere now between $300 and $350 for a brand new copy. So it is insane, the demand, because, obviously there's only so many copies that were manufactured. So it's becoming more of a scarce item. So yeah, you were fortunate to get your hands on one of those copies.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a way I need to find one of my old computers with a DVD burner and see if I can burn you a copy.
Yeah, it'd be cool. And of course, you have your technology, YouTube. There's a lot of it you can watch. You can, of course, watch the complete performance by Queen.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Which is
it's got like 100 million hits.
Yeah, to me, it was Eddie Mercury at his best, vocally, playing the piano, and a lot of great bands. I know Duran Duran played in Philly. I know David Bowie, I believe, played in London. Help me out, George. Who else? I should be able to rattle these
The
off.
Who?
The Who.
And a lot of the reason these English bands were playing in Philly, as you know, the summertime is when bands make their big bucks. They're touring across North America during the summer. So that's why it was easy for many of these groups who were English-based that performed in Philly because they were on tour. So they all scheduled their tour with that day off to come and help out. I enjoyed The Who. They were never in my top 10 or anything, but there's some good songs, and I think their lead singer is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, Roger Daltrey is a great vocalist. I'm kind of with you on that. I was never a huge Who fan. Again, like you mentioned, there's a couple songs out there. You Better, You Better, You Bet. Some songs from Quadrophenia. A couple songs I really liked. But I know and I guess what they did, because they had a full day. This is obviously before all the festivals and the 3-day and 4-day festivals eventually come to be. I think this, if I'm not mistaken, it started at 9 a.m., which is when the Hooters took the stage first. And I believe it ran to about 9:30 or 10 that evening.
Yeah, it sounds about right. It went about 12 hours or so.
Yeah.
Who closed? Was it all of them
pretty
singing?
much limited to between 2 and 3 songs, which makes sense because of time frames. I'm trying to think who else. Simple Minds.
Who closed? Did they close with "We Are the World"? Did they all get up on stage and sing? Is that how they closed the show?
Yes, but I think how they did it was there was about 24 performers on stage in Philadelphia, and then they simulcast and sang in unison with Wembley. And in Wembley, you had Bob Geldof, the promoter. You had David Bowie. You had some of the other English acts that were there. So it was a really cool event. It's something it's hard to believe it'll be 36 years this July, but it was a great day of music. As I mentioned, it's our generation's Woodstock, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we will do a show dedicated to Live Aid too, because it's a very important thing, and that might be something we do down the road as a video. Maybe we'll watch along a section at a time, because on the website I can embed a player and we can watch it and not have any copyright problems, because I think it's important. A lot of people have never seen that before. They've heard about it, they've never taken the time. So maybe we'll do every now and then we'll do a watch along and enjoy that with the listeners. That's a very important 80s day to me. Since you said that one, do you remember Hands Across America?
I do, and I don't remember if that was before or immediately after Live Aid.
I think it was 86.
86?
I think so. Did you do it?
I did not.
You heathen.
I'm assuming you did.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Yeah, I am a loser.
Wow. I was right. 1986, May 25th, 1986. It was actually the day before Memorial Day. And I was in do you remember, what were they called? Those shorts and tops that were Hawaiian. Were they called jams?
They were jams.
Yeah,
yes.
I had my jams on. I had my white Reeboks. I was a player. And I was standing out. I was actually down by my grandparents. And you could see the line all the way up towards the mall and the line all the way down towards Newport. It was pretty cool. It was kind of weird, though. They took all this time, and then we did that for a little bit, and it was done. But it was cool to say you were a part of something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't say that I partook of that. So
you're partaking of something else. Bro, I don't want to hold hands.
Yeah, I had actually forgotten about that, so you had mentioned it. Hands Across America. Now I'm going to show my ignorance once again. What did that benefit? It
was also, if I'm not mistaken, it was for hunger in Africa as well, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just see here. Sunday, May 25th, 1986, founded by Ken Cragen. It goes on. Yeah, it didn't make it across, obviously, but there's many, many cities. If you remember Jamie Farr from MASH, he was the big guy. They had like stars from across the country in their hometown. Jamie Farr was in Toledo, Ohio, and it raised almost $100 million. It was a project of USA for Africa but it also aided in the homelessness in the United States. So it was, and the other thing that a lot of people don't know, I actually I had a podcast called The Wayback Machine. There was a real big problem. There was another charity fundraiser that they scheduled for the same day called Sport Aid, which was USA for Africa. And they only had 4,000 runners because they did it on the same day as Hands Across America. Why you would do that is beyond me.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to like have a break in the bridge where everybody just kind of moves out so the runners can get through. So
yeah, but why would you schedule it on the same day of Hands Across America? You know what I mean?
I mean, you have 364 other days.
Exactly.
Seriously.
Knuckleheads.
So I guess that might bring us into our next
the song of the week. Since we're talking about music, let's do the song of the week.
You can go first, my friend.
Oh, okay. So my song, and the reason I'm doing this, I had a show called Retro Rock Reviews, and we did 88 episodes, and actually Mark was on one of the shows with me. I think it was a double episode, 83, 84, 84, 85, something like that. And the very first episode I did, going back, almost 2 years ago, was Crimson Glory and Queen of the Masquerade. And I thought it was important, if I was going to do a show like that, not to do songs that everybody knows about. If you're going to listen to something, you should learn something. Even if you learn one thing, then you've learned something. And I said, let me do one of these bands that have kind of gone under the radar. And Crimson Glory was one of those bands who went pretty much under the radar. Crimson Glory came out. They were formed in the late 70s. They're one of those North Florida bands that were big in the 70s and 80s. But they really started to catch their stride in the mid to late 80s. And their album... Crimson Glory, their debut album, was really good. I really enjoyed that. There's a song on there called Azrael, which I really enjoy, but Queen of the Masquerade is on that album. And if you've never heard of it, well, obviously we can't play it on this podcast because of copyright reasons, but what we did for you was we created theweeklyretro.com, and if you click on Songs of the Week, the Crimson Glory video is there, and you can enjoy it. Now, listen, folks. When you see the video playing and you don't hear music, it's on autoplay, but the volume doesn't automatically play. So if you're sitting in the office and you go to this site, it's not going to blare out. You actually got to click on the video and adjust the volume. So check out that song. It's a great song. It didn't chart. They weren't a huge band. They were trying to be like Kiss. They did a little bit of the makeup and stuff like that. But, I mean, that song, Queen of the Masquerade, just screams 80s. So, yeah, 3 great songs from them, Queen of the Masquerade, Azrael, and then their follow-up album, Transcendence, had Lonely on it, which is another just great song. So my song, my out-of-the-box dream of the week, song of the week is Crimson Glory, Queen of the Masquerade. And they were, and a lot of people don't know this, Crimson Glory was like one of the pioneers of the progressive metal movement. They were big with Queensryche, Dream Theater, and Watchtower. So once again, a lot of people may have never heard of them, but if you enjoy like real 80s rock, check out Crimson Glory, Queen of the Masquerade on theweeklyretro.com. Mark, what's your song of the week?
My just to kind of, before I give you mine, my first thought when I heard, because I listened to it, I wanted to check it out, obviously, and their vocalist sounds so much like Rob Halford, the lead singer of
from Judas Priest.
The same vocal range, maybe not quite as intense or as powerful as Rob Halford, but if you listen to it, if you go there and you click on it, and you watch it, to me, he sounds so much like him, and their music reminds me of the instrumentation. To me, reminds me of Scorpions.
You know what? Yeah, that's a great comparison. That's a fantastic
like a
comparison.
blending of the two. So I enjoyed it. I listened to the whole. I was actually in line, a long line at Chick-fil-A, and I got to listen to the entire track. And then I put on my song, which I'll get into. And this song, not as scarce or rare as George's pick. George kind of went in the opposite direction of what I did. Mine was a little bit more. To me, this song epitomized the 80s, in my opinion. And that was Simple Minds, Don't You Forget About Me. Love the song from the very first time I heard it. It was actually featured as the opening track in the movie The Breakfast Club, which is also another fantastic movie. We're going to cover that as one of our movies of the week in coming weeks. Just a great movie. I actually watched it about 3 nights ago. And as soon as you all know, if you are familiar with that film, when it comes on, that's the first song they play. So to me, that song just screams, like you said with your song, that song just, it's an 80s song. The sound of it, the vocals, everything. So,
and it charted number 1.
Oh, okay.
It hit number 1.
I did not know that. I knew it was popular. I believe you and I were in 85, maybe 10th grade.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny. You're right. For some reason, I thought it was 83, 84. It was released early in 85. February 1985. Yep.
And they had a couple other smaller their follow-up album, and the name escapes me at the moment, but their follow-up album I think came out in 87, and they had one song which is really a great song called Alive and Kicking.
That is a
you might remember that
song.
Great song. They had another one called Sanctify Yourself. So a couple other, smaller hits, nothing like they had when they had the success of Don't You Forget About Me. But Alive and Kicking was a fantastic song. Don't know how. I know it charted. I don't know how well it charted. But, I did not know that, George. I did not know that song went number 1. Doesn't surprise me, though.
Yeah, and it's they're a Scottish band. They weren't like a London-based band. They're actually from Glasgow, Scotland.
Oh, something else I learned. And they were actually on early on Live Aid. They were probably within the first 8 to 10 acts that took the stage. I remember it was like maybe late morning, early in the afternoon. They took the stage and they did that song. And I think they did one other song that I wasn't quite familiar with at that time. But so that's my song of the week. So
let me ask you this. Don't You Forget About Me just made for the album? Because I don't see it on their album listing. So was that just made for the Breakfast Club album?
It may have been.
It looks like it was.
I know the soundtrack album, which has been re-released, by the way, for anybody who's interested. It's been re-released on vinyl, as vinyl, as you know, is making a
comeback.
It's old news. It's vinyl is it's kind of ironic because the CD, when CDs came out in 82, I believe, and really took off, it completely obliterated vinyl, and CDs were considered the superior choice and of playback for music. But I'd say within the last maybe 5 years, vinyl has really exploded, and it's pretty much killed the CD. So it's kind of funny how, it's kind of like the circle of life, so to speak, because it's funny because about 2 years ago, Best Buy announced that they were no longer carrying and selling CDs. So a lot of stores you go to, when you go to look for a CD, you almost have to buy it online because stores are not carrying CDs anymore. They have a small area, but vinyl is just like, I have a pretty nice vinyl collection. And there's nothing like, to me, and again, vinyl, the 80s. Loved it. You crack open that record, you take it out of the sleeve, you put it on your turntable and drop that needle. And it's so nice. And
once again, we're keeping it light here and everything. But one thing that I've been doing lately is I've been buying physical books. With all the censorship and things that are going on lately, I'm straight buying books, buying physical things. Because like you said, there was something to going to the record store. It was an experience. You put on the headphones, you listen to to music. You check out the albums. Now they've taken the human interaction out of everything. It was something about getting in the car, going to the mall, seeing people in there, flipping through albums, learning about music.
Yes.
And now everything is just you bring it up on your phone and hit play. They've taken a lot of the experience. And once again, when you buy a record in the iTunes store, nothing against it. I mean, it's very convenient. I'm not complaining about it. But there's something about paying for something and physically holding something, saying, I bought this. And they have troves inside the... what am I trying to say here? Like the sleeves. Remember the record sleeves had...
inserts.
The lyrics and stuff on it.
Lyrics. Yeah, and I will tell you, I probably buy 2 to 5 records a week. My wife would kill me hearing me say that. But, you open it and records back in the 60s, 70s, and even the 80s before it took a nosedive, you just had a single sleeve. You took off the plastic, the cellophane, and you had another sleeve inside, a paper sleeve. But now they have gatefolds, and they have, like you said, the lyrics are printed. A lot of them have inserts. I recently bought the White Album by the Beatles, and included was a poster. It had 4 glossy 8x10 pictures of each member. The lyrics were printed on like heavy stock cardboard sleeves for the 2 records. I mean, and it's 180 grams, which means it's a heavy, solid. And records from today are far superior than what they were when we were teenagers. Sure. It's like comparing a Ferrari to a Pinto. It really is. Those records back then, they were floppy. You could go out in the yard and play frisbee with them. And God forbid it hit a fence because it shattered in 50 pieces. These records are solid. They're digitally remastered. They're from the original analog tapes. And I tell you what, if you have a decent turntable and some, fairly deep, you don't have to spend a lot on speakers, but you put on that record. And to me, when you hear that crackle or you hear an occasional skip, it's character, man. It's character of the album. Mm-hmm. So I'm with you, George. There's something about owning a tangible physical copy and cracking it open, dropping that record, putting the needle on, and just sitting back and listening to it. And I've heard people say, well, that's inconvenient. The record ends and you got to get up. Are you kidding me? Are you that lazy? You can't get up to turn a record, flip a record over. But I get it. There is convenience there with downloading, from iTunes or Apple Music or Amazon Music. And trust me, I have a massive catalog. I have both services on my phone. But there's something about owning, like you said, a physical copy.
And what is your one album that you remember? Like I remember my friend's Sean. He bought a Rush album. It was blue. What's the one album you remember that the artist got really creative with? Not just the I can't even think today. The album came in the
presentation.
Yeah, the presentation, the disc sleeve, or the disc itself. Is there one that sticks out?
I remember for Christmas, I want to say it might have been Christmas 85, Christmas 85, Christmas. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
I thought it went out for a minute. There you are. Christmas, probably in that time frame, my sister for Christmas bought me Led Zeppelin, Physical Graffiti.
Oh, yeah.
And when you open it, it's very unique. As you know, the album has an apartment, like a almost like a row home type, and it's got windows. And when you take it out, and see, that's the thing. Even with a CD, you didn't have that with the CD. You open the plastic case, you had the little paper insert, and then the 2 discs. But with the LPs, because at that time it was a double album. You had like windows, and the sleeves inside had corresponding photos of the bands. A couple of them, I think there was a couple of them with, I think John Bonham and Jimmy Page and Drag. A couple pictures of, Robert Plant and John Paul Jones, and, them just being goofballs. And it was very unique. And that was what stood out to me. And of course, the classic Swan Song label, that was a beautiful label. And that I just remember that. I didn't have a whole lot of vinyl as a kid, but I remember my sister buying that for me one Christmas, and I played it to death, and it was just such a cool presentation.
We need to take a trip up there this fall and get our picture taken in front of that building.
Yeah. I believe it's in New York.
Yeah, it's in New York City.
Yeah. Yeah, we can wear riot gear.
Well, it's a ghost town up there now.
Yeah, true.
We can go there and get our picture. The address is actually in the wiki. I want to ride up there. It's only a 2.5 hour trip.
That would be very cool.
So,
Surprising, because even in the photo, it looks like it's almost condemned.
Say again?
It's not still standing. I said back then it looked like on the cover of the album, it looked like it was condemned. So I'm surprised it's still standing today.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's slide it in before our break. We're going to talk a little bit about our movie of the week, our classic retro movie of the week. I went first with the song, so I'll let you go first with the movie, Gunner.
All right, so this movie, at the time, I was actually working at the movie theater. I did some concessions, but mainly what I did was, which is really cool, between shows, the movies, me and another guy or two would clean the theater. We had a little dustpan, and we cleaned all the popcorn, but we had a lot of downtime. So, as you know, the 80s were some great movies that came out. This movie was showing during my employment there, and I probably watched it about 30 times and could probably quote it word for word from start to finish. Wow. And that is Weird Science. Cool opening song and just a classic 80s movie. Anthony Michael Hall, and I can't remember his buddy with the dark hair, Ian Smith something. He had a hyphenated name as well, but just a great movie. Some eye candy in it, great soundtrack, just a really, really cool movie.
Yeah, that soundtrack screamed 80s.
Yes.
Was that 83?
What band did that track?
Was it Oingo Boingo?
It was, correct. Yes.
2 points to me.
Yeah, man. He shoots, he scores.
Was that 83?
85.
85, that's right. 85 was a huge a Rat Pack, or Brat Pack, they called him, right?
Yeah, so in 85 also, I believe you had St. Elmo's Fire.
Yeah.
That was an 1985 movie, and that was, like you said, the Brat Pack.
Yeah, Breakfast Club.
Also in 85 was, of course, The Breakfast Club, another
Pretty in
John
Pink.
Hughes helmed movie, along with Weird Science.
Yep.
He had a number of like rapid fire movies that came out. Do you remember a couple of the other ones he did?
Did he do the one with Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
I believe he did do that one. That one also came out while I was employed there.
What a great movie.
Oh, dude. Awesome movie. A movie that was very popular. I was not a huge fan of it, but I could see the appeal, and that was Pretty in Pink. That was a John Hughes movie. And prior to that was 16 Candles, which was also a John Hughes movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he had about 5 or 6 in about a 2-year period that not only came out quickly, but they all did very well.
Faux shizzle.
What's that?
Faux shizzle.
Yeah, man. So I'm trying to think what else was out. Back to the Future was also a movie that was playing there, along with Weird Science. One of the, I don't know which one it was, one of the Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Of course, there was 38 of them movies. So it was one of, Nightmare on Elm Street, 7 or whatever it was. But, yeah, it was a cool experience. I worked there for maybe 4 or 5 months, but saw a lot of good movies.
Not to go off, but that's your pick of the week, Weird Science. But just off all the whims, since you mentioned Freddy Krueger, were you big into the horror genre of the 80s? And if so, what was the one that you either liked the most or the one that, you remember the most?
I was a pretty big horror fan. Actually, up until maybe about 5 to 10 years ago. To me, and this is going to be a little bit of a knock, we talked about the good things and the bad things that have changed. There were a lot of hokey, I guess that's probably the right word to say, probably the best word to say. There are a lot of hokey horror movies in the
Leprechaun.
80s. Yeah. For me, for my money, a lot of the great horror movies came out in the late 70s and the early 80s, and that was the Friday the 13th franchise. Yeah. Fantastic movie. And a lot of, I mean, towards the end, they got a little, you had Jason versus Freddy. It got a little, then it really got hokey. But a lot of the first few movies were really well made and, very gory and very scary and had you on the edge of your feet. What about you?
For me, I didn't watch a lot of R-rated movies as a kid. The parents had me clamped down. So the first one I saw, to me, number one, I want to say it doesn't have to be blood, guts, and gore to be a great, scary movie. Poltergeist, while not so much a horror movie, when you saw that for the first time, that was really edge of your seat. I thought it was done extremely well. I think that was 82. But for me, the first real horror movie that blew me away as a youngster was Children of the Corn, man.
That is like an evil, flippant, eerie movie.
Wow. I mean, that freaked me out. I mean, that's one that I always remember because that was really one of the first horror movies that I saw. But I always really enjoyed Poltergeist, and that was the thing where you don't have to have blood, guts, and crazy stuff to be a good quality, edge-of-your-seat type of movie. I think Poltergeist is more of a sci-fi thriller than a horror, but I really enjoyed Poltergeist. Children of the Corn is the one I always remember just because I thought, wow, people watch this? It was insane. But also The Omen. I remember watching that as a kid and thinking, holy crap, there's some crazy stuff.
Yeah, Damien. Creepy kid, man. I remember I saw that the original that came out I'd probably say 82, 83. And man, that was a creepy movie. That was another creepy movie. I'm kind of siding on with you on this one. I am more into edge of your seat than I am gore / blood movies.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't mind a little bit of it, but I like movies that terrify me.
Yeah.
That make you think and oh my word. I'll tell you a movie that scared the bejesus out of me was the original Amityville Horror.
Great one.
Great movie. And you want to talk about a creepy edge of your seat, and of course they promoted it as, a true story. So that kind of added another element to it. And, just the acting was superb, but for that time, the special effects, the pig eyes looking at the little kid, it had so many creepy aspects to it. And I remember at the time it came out, it was one of the first ones I saw, and it chilled me to the bone, dude.
The Shining was that way for me. I mean, that came out in 78, 79, but I saw it in the early 80s, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Here's Johnny.
Yeah. You'll laugh when I tell you this. I have seen bits and pieces of it. I have never sat and watched it start to finish.
Really?
No.
Do you know, and I have a little surprise segment for you later. I don't want to spoil it now, but Stanley Kubrick, because I'll forget if I don't say it now. That guy, a lot of people say that if you believe that we went to the moon, that's cool. But a lot of people say he was the one who directed the filming of the moon landing. And if you look back at his movies, The Shining and other movies like that, he sent subtle hints. Like in The Shining, the kid's wearing the USA rocket on his sweater. When they open the closet, there's all the tang on the what do you call it, on the cabinets. A lot of things. And one thing people don't know: what was his biggest movie, which came out in, I think, 1968?
A Clockwork Orange?
No, that was 70s.
That was him, though, right?
Yeah, it was. But he came out with a Space Odyssey 2001. 2001 Space Odyssey.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. 2001. He died 666 days before January 1st, 2001. And what a lot of people don't know, do you remember the last movie he made?
I do not.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh, okay, with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
Correct. That came out in like 98.
Mm-hmm.
He had complete, in his contract, complete directorial control of that movie. And he finished it, and he met the Warner Brother movie producers in the hotel, and they screened it there for them to see. They called him in, and there was a huge argument. There's a guy who has written books about what happened that night. Because what a lot of people don't know is a lot of people, there's a famous Rothschilds had a party in 1972 that he mimicked a lot of that movie about. That night, he died in the hotel, and 28 minutes of footage went missing out of that movie.
Oh, wow.
That's a true story. This isn't conspiracy theory George. There's regular George, and then there's conspiracy theory George. This is a fact. You can look it up. It's anywhere. Really interesting stuff. The Stanley Kubrick, the moon landing, and the things like that. I urge everybody to check that out. So, yeah. And listen, folks, if you want to tell us your song of the week or your movie of the week, send us an email. theweeklyretro@mail.com. theweeklyretro@mail.com. We're going to take a quick break. While we do, you're going to enjoy Rodney Dangerfield, some classic audio. We'll see you on the other side.
Thank you very much. Boy, what a crowd, huh? Now, I tell you, I'm all right now, but last week I was in rough shape, you know? Yeah, last week my wife signed me up for a bridge club. I jump off next Tuesday. I mean, last week nothing went right. I bought a waterbed. There were 2 Cuban guys swimming in it looking for Florida. Oh, well. Last week I went to the track, too. That was a beauty. I shot off the opening gun. They killed my horse. I'll tell you, nothing works out. My car broke down again. I got a car, I got nothing but trouble. Every Sunday I take my family out for a push. The last time my wife drove the car, she cracked it up, went into a tree. Told me it wasn't her fault. She blew the horn. My wife isn't too smart, you know. One night she went out, some guy stole the car. I said to her, just see what he looked like. She told me she got the license plate number. Oh, she's not smart at all. I told her our kid is spoiled. She told me a lot of kids smell that way, you know. I tell you, it's tough to stay married to my wife. How do you think I feel? She kissed the dog on her lips and she won't drink from my glass. I mean, there's always some. My wife's father, he just moved in too, has electronic pacemaker. Every time he sneezes, the garage door opens. I'll tell you, life isn't easy. My psychiatrist told me I'm going crazy. I said to him, if you don't mind, I'd like a second opinion. He said, all right, you're ugly too. Are you kidding? I know I'm ugly. Halloween, I open the front door, kids give me candy. My dog found out we look alike. He killed himself. I was an ugly kid, too. I worked in a pet store. People kept asking how big I get. Too fast for this whole section over here. And I was ugly in my sandbox. The cat kept covering me up all the time, you know? You know, what a childhood I had. My mother never breastfed me. She told me she liked me as a friend. Kids today is different. They got it too good. They don't appreciate it either. Last Christmas, my kid wanted a BB gun. I gave him a BB gun. He gave me a sweatshirt with a bullseye in the back. Smart kid I got. The other day, I told him about the birds and the bees. He told me about my wife and a butcher. I tell you, my whole life is pressure. Nothing but pressure. This pressure is like a heaviness. Always on top of me, this heaviness since I'm a kid. Other people wake up in the morning, new day, up and at 'em. I wake up, the heaviness is right there waiting for me. And sometimes I even talk to it, and I say, hi, heaviness. And the heaviness looks back at me, today you're going to get it good, you know. We'll be drinking early today. And I don't want to drink, I'm a bad drinker. When I drink the next day, I got to do 2 things. I try and locate my car, and I got to bring back the car I took. I'm a bad. You know the trouble with me? I appeal to everyone who can do me absolutely no good. With me, nothing comes easy. I met the Surgeon General. He offered me a cigarette. I mean, that's the story of my life. No respect. I don't get no respect at all. Are you kidding? This afternoon, I was at BB2 this afternoon. I was in a bar. They told me to get out. They wanted to start the happy hour. I mean, it's It's not easy being me. Well, last week my house was on fire. My wife told the kids, be quiet, you wake up daddy. No, but I tell you, I finally got some respect. They asked me here tonight, you know. And I tell you, I'm surprised I'm here. I mean, I voted for Randolph Scott.
Rodney Dangerfield. President Reagan in the audience there from 1981. I guess the bullet didn't hurt too much.
Oh, wow. Was that after the assassination?
Well, yeah, because he got shot in like January of 81. So I think this was in the fall. This was later that year.
Okay.
So that guy, brilliant. If you haven't seen him on Johnny Carson, get to YouTube and watch all his Carson appearances. He is amazing.
Yeah, he was a legend. He was one of a kind, man. Very underrated, in my opinion.
For sure. And we're going to do some famous birthdays. When I say this person's name, after I give their name in the brief intro, I want you to tell me what you think of that person or your memory from them. You may not. First one, April 22nd, 1923. Aaron Spelling, one of the greatest TV producers of all time, including Charlie's Angels, was born on this day in 1923.
Wow. So actually, 2 more years he'll be, if he was still with us, he'd be celebrating a 100th birthday.
Yep, he died in 2006, so it's still not a bad life. He lived to be 83.
Yeah, he lived a good long life. He also probably his most famous show he produced was 90210, and included his daughter
Tori
Spelling. Yes.
He also did Love Boat, Charlie's Angels, Heart to Heart, Dynasty. Of course, you said Beverly Hills 90210, Melrose Place, Seventh Heaven, and Charmed.
Wow, I did not know he did Seventh Heaven.
What do you think that really cat's net worth is?
What's that? His net worth?
Yeah.
I would have to say, I'm probably going to be way off the mark. I'll say $300 million.
It is reported to be $600 million.
How much?
$600 million.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
he did okay.
Wow.
Television did him well. Next birthday, 1936, Glenn Campbell, Rhinestone Cowboy fame.
Yeah, he actually just passed not that long ago, if I'm not mistaken.
2017, 3 years ago.
Okay, I actually thought it was a little bit more recent than that. Rhinestone Cowboy, that was actually a pretty big hit when I was a tot, pretty young guy, and remember that song on the airways. Remember hearing it on the radio. Don't know a lot about. I know he was. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, George, but wasn't he more known more as a songwriter than he was a singer, or am I thinking of somebody else?
No, indeed. He was a songwriter, also a guitarist, but he also was in True Grit before he passed.
The remake?
Yeah.
Or the original with John.
You know what? I don't know.
We'll have to look that one up in a little bit.
For sure.
Did not know he was in that either.
This day in 1937, Jack Nicholson was born.
Jack will be, so that would make him 84. Wow, he don't look a day over 75.
Where do you think he was born? What state do you think he's from?
I'm going to go out and say New Jersey.
Wow. 2 points to you, sir.
That was a complete shot in the dark, my friend.
No kidding.
Yeah, I had no clue. As God is my witness, I have not read that. I think with the way you formed the question, I knew it wasn't an obvious choice, like,
California, New York,
or Arizona. I just had a feeling. It's funny about him. I actually saw him on an episode about 2 years ago. I was over at my parents, and they had the Andy Griffith Show on, and he was in an episode.
Really?
He played a guy who had gotten arrested, and he was in court. I don't remember a lot of the details of the particular episode, but Andy had to show up in court, and a very young Jack Nicholson, because I believe that show started, I want to say, in 1960.
Yeah, late 50s, early 60s.
that was in '60, and he was born. So yeah, he was probably maybe early 30s. But it took a second. I told my dad, I said, "Do you know who that is?" And he looked. He said, "No." I said, "Look a little closer." And then when he talked, my dad said, "Jack Nicholson." I said, "Yep." He still got that
Johnny.
same. Yeah. So before he got who he was, became the legend Jack Nicholson. So Andy
he would have
Griffith.
been about 23 when he appeared on that episode, give or take.
Okay. What's that?
I said he would have been if he was on that episode in 1960, he would have been early 20s at the time when he was on that show.
Yeah, so 37. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So young guy for sure.
Yeah, I said 30s. I was mistaken. So yeah, he would have been
early 20s.
Yeah, early 20s.
Early to mid 20s. Happy 61st birthday. This day on April 22nd, 1950. Guy who was off to a promising career and then had a setback to a car accident. The one and only Peter Frampton.
Peter Frampton. Big part of my youth when I was, I want to say, one of the biggest, arguably the most famous live record or double record is Frampton Comes Alive. And I think that came out, I want to say 1975. And my brother had it on vinyl, and we listened to that many times over. And then he had a smaller hit, I want to say right around 1977. I remember seeing the 45. I remember seeing him on the cover, sitting on the floor with his one knee up, but I can't remember the name of the song. But he kind of disappeared after that. You didn't hear a whole lot about him after that.
Yeah, for sure. It was 1978, I think. He was in the Bahamas, and he almost died.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, he suffered a concussion, broken bones, and of course, what happens with a lot of people, he was in just a world of pain. He got addicted to pills and drugs abuse, and so he kind of fell out. But Frampton Comes Alive for a while was the number one live album in the world.
Yeah. He was probably what you want to call one of the original one-hit wonders. Like I said, if you take away Frampton Comes Alive, he's probably pretty irrelevant. Like I said, he had that one hit.
Well, he had two big ones. He had hang on. There's hang on. Sorry, I can't think of it. Oh, Baby, I Love Your Way.
Yeah, that was on Frampton Comes Alive. Show Me the Way was the other.
And then Do You Feel Like We Do?
Yeah. Those were charting. I think there were singles that were released from that album.
Yep.
But he kind of, like I said, neither 77 or 78. He did have one song, a studio track that was released, and I can't remember the name of it. And then after that, like you said, maybe his accident, the painkillers, he kind of disappeared, was out of the limelight for a while.
Yep. And a year later, does the name Paul Carrack ring a bell?
Paul Carrack. Yeah, he was, I don't know if he was a member of Little Feat. I can't remember what band he was a part of. And then he embarked on a solo career, which was probably more successful than when he was bandmates with whatever band it was.
Mike and the Mechanics.
He had a song that I absolutely loved. I actually had it on 45. It was called Don't Shed a Tear.
Don't shed a tear for me.
Yeah, I believe that came out around 88.
He was the lead singer for Mike and the Mechanics?
Yeah, he did. Well, actually, that band comprised of Mike Rutherford of Genesis fame, and they had two lead singers. They had Paul Carrack, and they had he passed away. He was pretty big in the late 80s. He did some solo stuff, and I don't know if he died of cancer, but he did leave us a number of years back, and I cannot remember his name. He actually did the song "Oh Girl."
Oh, okay, I know which one you're talking about.
You know who I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, so Mike and the Mechanics actually comprised of, they had two singers on that record, on that album that they released, and it was kind of like a super group project, side project for Mike Rutherford when he, was not playing with Genesis, and they were pretty big. They had a couple really big songs that charted, and Paul Carrick did the one, and this other gentleman that I'm referring to, whose name escapes me, or you and I are batting 1,000. He did the vocals on probably about half of the record. So very, very, very big album. I want to say in '86.
He was also a part of Squeeze, Tempted by
Squeeze,
the Fruit
yes.
of Another.
I said Little Feat, but yeah, that's who it was. It was Squeeze.
Yeah. And then 1959, April 22nd, 1959, comedian Ryan Stiles, who came to fame as Lewis on the Drew Carey Show. He's a great comedian, especially with his physical comedy.
Yeah, he's the real tall guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I did watch the Drew Carey Show during its original run, and then he did like almost like a show that Drew Carey hosted.
Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Whose Line Is It Anyway? He was on that weekly.
Phenomenal.
A great show. My wife and I watched many of that episode and busted up doing it. So
greatest moment ever on that show was when they were saying, Drew Carey said, "Ho down," and that girl who was on stage dropped to the floor.
Oh my. Yeah, Drew Carey actually stepped aside, I think, to concentrate more on hosting The Price is Right. But he hosted that show for many years, and then he did leave, and a young lady stepped in, and she's been the host. I believe it's still running. Don't know what channel it's still on, but it's not as good. Drew Carey just added that extra comedic element to it. So
faux shizzle. 1961. Do you remember this guy, Jeff Hostetler?
Jeff Hostetler, I believe, was a quarterback in the NFL. Am I correct?
New York Giants. He's the guy who stepped in when Phil Simms got injured during the Super Bowl run.
And I believe he won a ring, if I'm not mistaken.
Most certainly did. And then this one, it's funny that this was his birthday today, being our debut show. This day, April 22nd, 1961, Jimmy Key.
Jimmy Key, lefty for my favorite baseball team, the Toronto Blue Jays. And quick story.
Hold on. For 5 bonus points, can you name the other 2 teams he pitched for?
Jimmy Key?
Yeah.
I want to say the Yankees, which I think he signed a free agent contract and turned his back on the Blue Jays. I mean, signed with another team. He went to the Yankees, and then I think he went to the Orioles.
You've 5 points, correct?
Okay, but I can't remember in what order. I don't know if he went to the Orioles and then the Yankees, but I think it was Blue Jays, Yankees, and Orioles.
Correct.
Yeah, he was. I remember reading a headline during that magical '85 season, which we are going to talk about a little bit later. But I remember seeing the headline on a big game that he won, and the headline said, "Jimmy is the key." Yeah, I loved him, man. I was so sad when he left, and of all teams, he went to the hated Yankees, and I believe he won another championship in '96. The Blue Jays finally cut that choke label off their collar and won their first of 2 straight championships in '92. He left following that first championship, signed with the Yankees, and I think he won his second championship in '96, but I could be off on that.
And then for your last chance to grab bonus points, where was he born? Where's he from? It's not New Jersey.
I'm going to give a shot in the dark. I'll say St. Louis, Missouri.
Ooh. Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay, yeah.
We would have accepted Alabama or Huntsville.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this one I'm coming at you. We didn't talk about this part at all, but I want you to tell me, and you may not have one at all. Is there one conspiracy theory that fascinates you, or that you have a conspiracy theory about a particular thing in life?
Yes, the John F. Kennedy assassination. Not even a question.
That is the popular go-to one. If you had to guess off the top of your head, or if you've ever looked into it or read a book about it, do you have an idea or a thought as to who did it?
Yeah, I think it was inside the government. I think it was the CIA. I don't think they liked Kennedy being involved. I think his downfall, what originally got him killed, and I could be way off on this, I would probably have to say his involvement with the Bay of Pigs, with Cuba, he really upset a lot of people. But to me, he was a visionary, and he, back when the Democratic Party was the Democratic Party, in my opinion. But I don't know. I mean, the idea that there was a lone gunman who rattled off 3 perfect shots in that fast succession is just, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's just, to me, it's not. I mean, they did a lot of ballistics tests and reenactment, and the Warren Commission, which I do believe did then say that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. But if you just look at how things went down, and the how far away and how clean of a shot, successive shots he had to make, and to strike Kennedy the way that he did. Yeah, and the angles, that's the big thing. When you look at ballistics and the angles and the shape of the bullets that were recovered in the limousine, to me, there's no way that you can believe that it was just one person shooting from one angle. I mean, that's my take on it.
Agreed. Well said. I'm going to give you one that ties into music that we have a common passion about. Have you heard of the Gulf of Tonkin incident?
I don't believe so.
So that was the false flag that was used to drag us into Vietnam.
Okay.
It was a ship, the USS Maddox, that was in there, and they claimed that North Vietnam, Vietnamese forces fired on it, but it didn't really happen. It was a false flag. But do you know, well, obviously you don't, but to our listeners at home, do you know who was the admiral of the USS Maddox that day in, 64, I think? August 4th, 1964.
I wouldn't even remotely even want to venture a guess, to be
George
honest.
Morrison. Does that last name sound familiar?
Morrison.
Jim Morrison's father was involved in
his father.
The biggest false flag, one of the biggest false flags in United States history. Is it a coincidence that this guy, and just a few months later, his son would become the biggest name in music history?
Yeah.
So did he do the government a favor, the military-industrial complex, and in return, his son was garnered fame and fortune?
Yeah.
Would later become the Club 27, right? The 27 Club.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting read. The Gulf of Tonkin, the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Check it out. George Morrison, Jim Morrison's dad, was a part of that. Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
All right, that's as deep into the unlightness that we're going to get into. We're going to get into our retro sports memory, and this was a big memory, not a great memory. Do you want me to play this and then go into it, or why don't you kind of give us a background on what we're about to listen to, Gunnar?
Well, I will tell you that I do credit George. After the '84 season, I originally, when I got into baseball, I was a Phillies fan. I'm in Delaware. Philadelphia is about a 35-minute drive up the turnpike. And after their '83 loss, the Wheeze kids, as they were affectionately known as, they lost pretty badly in the World Series, 4-1 to the Orioles. Phillies won the first game, and the Orioles proceeded to then win the next 4 by pretty remarkable fashion. George, you remember that series pretty well?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was almost like, as I was watching it, and I remember Game 1 was in Old Memorial Stadium. I remember, if my memory serves me correctly, Gary Maddox hit a home run, and somebody else hit a home run, and the Phillies won that game pretty convincingly.
And then it was over.
What's that?
And then it was over.
And then, I didn't think much of it. They won Game 2 in Memorial Stadium. Then the series moved back, and I know I'm getting off the subject a little bit, but who cares? This is our show. We're going to have fun. And the series returned to Veterans Stadium, old Veterans Stadium, and with its orange and red and yellow retro seats. And the Orioles pretty much put a whooping on them. They had incredible pitching. I think that was the one standout in that series I remember. Their pitching completely flustered and dominated that Phillies team. But moving on, after that season, they decided to completely, and I mean completely, dismantle that team. Joe Morgan was let go. Pete Rose was traded or either left. They didn't re-sign him. He went to, you remember, George?
Who did?
Pete Rose. Do you remember where? Because he left after that.
Did
season.
he go to Montreal after that?
Huh?
Did he go to Montreal after that?
He did. He went probably for about 2 years. He played with the old Montreal Expos. Tony Perez was cut and let go. And then they did the unspeakable, in my opinion. They traded away my favorite player. That was the Sarge, Gary Matthews. They also let go that one Bobby Dernier, who was an up-and-coming young player. And I was at a loss. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this team, yes, they were older. Yes, they were filled with veterans. But you completely, knocked it down to its very core and let the nucleus of what got you there go. And I was mad. So I said, you know what? I'm done. So I kind of went back and forth. I really liked the San Diego Padres. I loved those old mustard brown uniforms. They had a lot of great players. And I also kind of favored the Cincinnati Reds. And one morning, George and I were out on the smoking court. We were just talking. We were just eating our bag lunch out there. So we weren't smoking or nothing. But I told George what was going on. He's like, and I'll never forget this. He said, who you should follow? He said, my dad takes me to Old Memorial Stadium, and we go to Orioles games. But he goes, there's an up-and-coming team. It's the Toronto Blue Jays. He said, last year, because in '84, the Detroit Tigers completely, destroyed the league and won like 115 games. And the Blue Jays actually finished second and won, I want to say, about 87, 88 games, but finished about 17 games out because, when a team wins 115 games, you do the math. And so what I did was I did my research. And back then, the Blue Jays were a Canadian team. You couldn't just flip on the TV and, watch MLB TV and catch the game. So I literally from April 1st or whenever the season started to game 162, cut out every single box score.
No kidding. From the newspaper, huh?
Yeah, I did. Yep. News Journal, cut it out every day, saved it, put it in scrapbook. Any stories that came out about it, I saved it, pasted it in there. So that was my introduction to that team. So fast forward a little bit to give you a little bit of history. From 1969, when they first implemented the divisions, you had the National League East and National League West, American League East, American League West. When you won the division, you went straight to the ALCS. None of this wild card crap and division series. You went right to the League Championship Series. Well, from 1969 up to 84, it was a best of 5 format. And the powers that be said, you know what? It's kind of a shame that these teams play that many games only to have their whole season evaporate in a best of 5 series. Let's go to a best of 7. So they voted on it. They went with the MLB, PA, the Players Association. Of course, we know it was about money. It was about a TV contract, more revenue, which I understand. So starting in the 85 season, they adopted and started the best of 7 in the League Championship Series. So here's where this gets interesting. That year, the Blue Jays, like I said, George told me they're an upcoming team, and they were. They had talent from top to bottom. They were young. They were exciting. Defensively were great. Great young pitching. A lot of their players came right up through their farm system. And the Blue Jays, if I remember right, won, I want to say 92 games that year. Won the division on the next to the last game of the season, if you remember that, George. Went into as the favorites against the upstart Kansas City Royals. Those of Brett Saberhagen, George Brett, just some really good players. So Blue Jays, basically, to make this story quick and not bore you all, Blue Jays took a commanding 3-1 lead and promptly went on to get swept in the next 3 and lost in Game 7. Went to the World Series against the St. Louis Cardinals. I believe they won that series in 7 games as well. So the Royals did win the championship that year in the World Series. But I tell you what, you want to talk about a heartbreaking, gut-wrenching loss. And this is my first year following this team, but I followed them so closely and I was so dedicated to it. And that's the other thing. I got to finally watch them on TV, all 7 games, only to lose that way. And it was rough.
And I'll tell you who else had a good. So I was a Phillies fan, obviously. In 1980, Tug McGraw struck out Willie Wilson to win the 1980 World Series.
Yes.
Willie Wilson actually had a great 85 season.
He did.
So it was good to see a guy who, nobody growing up as a kid, you want to be the guy who strikes out to lose the World Series. So in retrospect, as bad as it sucks to see the Blue Jays lose, for personal levels, for people like that, it makes me happy. And George Brett I'm glad, because you see a lot of people like Dan Marino, great athletes who never won championships. So I was glad to see him win a championship, albeit at the team we were rooting for's expense. So we're going to cut to this audio clip, just a couple minutes long. This is a breakdown of the 1985 ALCS between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Kansas City Royals.
In 1985, baseball's league championship series went from a best of 5 to best of 7. And the first ALCS under the new format was one to remember. It was the Blue Jays against the Royals. Toronto won Game 1 6-1 behind their ace Dave Stieb. They also led Game 2 4-3 in the top of the 9th when their closer Tom Henke faced Kansas City pinch hitter Pat Sheridan.
Well hit by Sheridan to deep right. This game is tied.
In the top of the 10th, the Royals' speedy center fielder Willie Wilson singled, stole second, and then scored on this Frank White base hit.
Fastball is smacked into center, and Mosby not there. I haven't seen the call yet. He's coming in, and they say safe.
The Blue Jays tied it in the bottom of the 10th on a Lloyd Mosby hit. And with 2 out, Al Oliver faced Kansas City closer Dan Quisenberry.
That might do it. The throw from Smith. The Blue Jays win it.
Up 2-0, the Blue Jays headed for Kansas City. And in Game 3, they held a 5-2 lead in the 5th, thanks to Rance Mullenix.
Mullenix drills one. Deep right field, and see you later. It's 5-2 Toronto.
But in the bottom of the 6th, George Brett hit his second home run of the game.
I got to pause that for a second. That Lance Mullenix shot, obviously you guys are listening. I'll put this on the website. That home run Lance Mullenix hit was a bomb.
Rance. Remember we used to
Rance.
Part of that? Instead of Lance, Rance.
That was a bomb, dude.
And I had forgotten that they were up 5-2 in Game 3. They would have won up 3-0.
That was a bomb.
It was a blast, huh?
Yeah, I'll post it on the website later. Let's get back to this audio. Incredible.
And it was tied at 5.
Well hit to left center. Back goes Mosby, along with Bell. Forget it. Home run, Brett.
Brett wasn't done. He singled in the 8th and scored the go-ahead run.
It's softly, and it could be big trouble. It will drop. Kansas City has the lead.
The Game 3 numbers for George Brett: 4 for 4, 2 homers, 4 runs scored, 3 RBIs. The Royals were now back in the series, and they went to the 9th inning of Game 4 leading 1-0. But Lloyd Mosby's double tied the game for Toronto.
Base hit over White, and it might get into the gap. This game is going to be tied. Jimmy Williams is waving Garcia home. Mosby stops at second. A 1-1 ball game.
So in came Quisenberry again. And with 2 on and the game on the line, up came Al Oliver. And just as in Game 2, Oliver won the battle.
Off-speed pitch, hit down the right field line. It's fair, and it's Toronto in front. 1 run in, and they're waving the second one in. Oliver has a double, and he's come through against Quisenberry in the clutch again.
So at that point, they're up 3-1. Any other year before that, they would have been ALCS champions.
That would have been it. Yeah. I
Now,
think that's the thing that hit me in the gut the hardest. Like, wow, you could have delayed this another 2 or 3 years.
no, and now comes the part where the tide starts to change.
Down 3-1 and reeling, Kansas City got a fine pitching performance from Danny Jackson in Game 5 to force the series back to Toronto. There, the Royals also won Game 6.
Got him. The quiz comes through, and there will be a final game.
So it came down to the 7th and deciding game, which KC led 2-1 in the 6th when they loaded the bases for Jim Sundberg. And with this one swing, he blew the game open.
In the air to right, Barfield going back. Look out for the wind. It hits the top of the fence, and I believe it's still in play. Yes, it is. 2 runs will score, 3 runs score. It's a triple for Sundberg.
The Royals went on to win 6-2, and they had come all the way back from being down 3-1 to win the LCS and go on to the World Series.
For the second time in their history, they're on their way to the World Series.
There, they played the Cardinals, and again they fell behind 3-1. But again, they won the next 3 to take it all.
The Kansas City Royals are the 1985 World Champions.
2 stirring comebacks by the Kansas City Royals in 1985.
And there you go. You can see Gunner's in tears. I know you guys can't see, but he's reliving it all over again. He's got his Blue Jays PTSD going on right now.
You know what I will say though, and George, I don't know if you agree with this concept or this thought as much as I do. I have many friends, a lot of Philadelphia Eagles fans, and I remember like if it was like I'm in baseball mode now. If it was the NFC Championship game, and if the Eagles, because remember they I think it was like 3 or 4 years in a row back in like from 2002 to like 2005, they lost 4 straight. You remember that they lost?
Yeah, they lost to Carolina.
Tampa Bay.
Yep, 2002 they lost to Tampa.
But everybody I knew, all my friends, and the majority of them were Eagles fans, they would all say, man, I hope, Tampa Bay gets crushed in the Super Bowl. My theory was always this, though. Wouldn't you want to see the team that beat you win the whole thing?
As long as it wasn't the Cowboys.
What's that?
As long as it wasn't the Cowboys.
As long as it wasn't the Cowboys. That's the one caveat.
Like for you, as long as it wasn't the Yankees.
Or the Yankees. Correct. But for me, I saw Kansas City come back from being down 3-1. But then I was rooting for Kansas City because I want to see the team that beat me win it all. Because then if they then lost in the World Series, then you got beat by the second place team. And then they did it again, 3-1 and won 3 straight against St. Louis. And that was actually a controversial World Series because I think it was in Game 7. And we can look this up. This will be maybe for another show. The runner for, I want to say Kansas City was called safe. It was 2 outs. And you might remember this, George. The runner was called safe when he was actually out, which would have ended the World Series. And Kansas City would have won the World Series. Or St. Louis would have won the World Series. But Kansas City got new life, came back and won. And I don't know if that was Game 7 or the turning the tide and they went on to win. But I do remember that controversial call at first base. He was called safe when he was actually out, which would have given St. Louis the championship.
Okay. Are you ready for some 1985 ACLs trivia?
Sure.
All right. Well, this one's not so much that year, but do you remember in 1985, where did the Toronto Blue Jays play? What was their stadium?
Exhibition Stadium.
No. All right. 1 point. Who was the opening game, the Game 1 pitcher for the Kansas City Royals? The starting pitcher.
For the ALCS?
Uh-huh.
Ooh. I know
this is for Kansas City.
For Toronto? Huh?
Kansas City's opening, the pitcher.
Yeah, I want to say it was that Danny Jackson?
Charlie Liebrant. Old Charlie Liebrant. Remember him?
Wow.
He was an old guy. He pitched into his 40s.
Yeah, he actually blew a game, which is ironic on this, George. He actually blew a game against the Blue Jays in the 92 World Series. Did you know that?
When he was pitching for who?
He later pitched for the Atlanta Braves. And in the 1992 World Series, he had a lead and blew the lead against those same Blue Jays only 7 years later. And, of course, we know how that series ended.
He pitched for 14 years. That's a heck of a career, man.
That is.
79 to 93.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, he pitched one more season after that 92 year.
That's good stuff. Old memories. That was 1985. We were sophomores, and that was 35 years ago now.
Going on 36 this fall.
That's insane, man.
It doesn't seem that long ago.
Not at all. So that is your retro sports memory of the day. And once again, if you have one that we'd like to talk about, or let's try that again. If you've got a retro sports memory you would like us to talk about or be part of, send us an email to, what's the name of our show? The Weekly Retro at mail.com. The Weekly Retro at mail.com. This is like my 45th podcast I've done. My mind's all over the place. Or go to the website. We have a chat room in there. Interact. You can leave your questions, comments, concerns in there as well. So many. And it doesn't have to be the 80s. Let's do a retro one. There's so many major sports events. But yeah, the Eagles had a lot of them. My goodness gracious.
Yeah. We could do a whole show on that.
We could do a whole show on 4th and 26 against the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
That was nuts.
Yeah.
That was nuts. Well, we've hit the 90-minute mark. Well, what else do you want to touch on? We've touched on everything that I had. What else did you want to cover before we headed out the door?
Kind of like what you touched base on, your request. Tell us what you want to hear. If there's a subject, movie, song, album. I thought about maybe focusing on a classic 1980s album that you remember, that you love. I have a multitude of them that, again, this is our high school years and some of the best years. And to me, like I said, music was king during the 80s. A lot of one-hit wonders, a lot of great, great songs. A lot of English bands, a lot of just, super groups and just some, bands that got their starts in the 80s. So, yeah, if you have something that, you want to talk about, an album, a particular song, subject matter, an event, reach out and you put it in that website, and, or that email, and we'll cover it. This show's for you all. So, great first show. I enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one.
Let me ask you this real quick before we head out the door. What was when you went to the mall to the arcade, what was the one go-to game you used to like to play at the arcade?
I would have to say Food Fight. Do you remember that game?
Food Fight. Boy, that is... Yeah, that's going back.
And he had a big stack of food, pies and cakes and all kinds of food, and you had chefs trying to get you or kill you, and you had to fend them off with all your food. Food Fight. Love that.
That's right. I remember when you said that, I wasn't thinking of it, but do you remember Burger Time?
Yes, I do remember Burger Time.
Running over and making the sandwiches, and that hot dog and the egg is chasing you.
Oh yeah. Now let me like I said, there's no limits, there's no rules, nothing like that.
No,
We're here to
of
have
course
fun. Do you remember the original WWF game that you could play?
I remember the one where you could play in that blue steel cage, and you could be Big Boss Man or the Ultimate Warrior.
Well, there was one. It was like just a regular stand-up arcade. Now, maybe you saw a game, or maybe they got a little bit better version of it, and I missed it. But they had a game, and you had a tag team partner. I remember I always liked to play as Mr. Perfect and Hulk Hogan.
Oh, that's right.
And what happened was you kept competing in matches, and then you had a shot at the tag team championship. And do you remember who the tag team champions was that you had to face?
I'm going to say Hulk Hogan.
No.
No? Oh, the Road Warriors.
No. Well, so,
Was it the Road Warriors?
It was the Road Warriors.
That's right.
And leading into your match with them, whoever you picked as your two characters, it was an interview of Mean Gene Okerlund talking to each one of the Road Warriors. And they were like, screaming like, "We're going to stop you," and all this stuff. But they were tough. But I actually, like any video game back in the '80s, there was a method, and you mastered it, and you won every time. But once I mastered it, I remember one of their finishing moves was they would one of the Road Warriors would get up on the belt on the buck on the top, and the other Road Warrior would pick whoever you were up on his shoulders, and he jumped into a flying clothesline, and that was their finishing move.
That's right.
And I also enjoyed the Ultimate Warrior. His finishing move was he would pick you up and press you and then slam and then drop you.
Yeah, drop you on your stomach.
And if that happened, it was lights out. He'd pin you, and
done.
that was the end of the game. I'll throw another one at you.
Okay.
Punch Out.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that was legendary.
Great game.
Yeah. I think my favorite one, the one that probably took up most quarters, obviously everybody played Pac-Man, but I really loved Jungle Hunt.
Jungle Hunt.
That's the one where you swang from vine to vine, and then you had to jump over rocks, and then you swim in the ocean and stab the crocodiles with your knife.
I don't remember playing that one, George.
Really? It would be when the Atari came out a little later. Pitfall.
Oh, it was like Pitfall.
Was kind
Similar
of themed after that game. Yeah.
That's another shit too, buddy.
Oh yeah, we could do video games. We could do wrestling.
How about
the Macho Man Randy Savage? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. How about Joust?
Believe it or not,
Not a fan?
I have Joust downstairs.
The actual arcade game?
I have the stand-up arcade. It's got 4 games on it, and Joust is one of them.
What are the other ones?
Man, I only play Joust on that thing, but why can't I remember the name? I can't remember. I only play Joust on that thing. The Wizard, it's the Wizard game where you can be, I forget. Anyway, but Joust is one of the 4 games, and I play that one all the time. That's the one I play.
Joust is a classic. I sucked at it, but, oh, man. Like, I was good the first 2 or 3 rounds, but I swear, every time I got near that lava and that freaking lava hand came up and grabbed me and pulled me under, every time. And I just couldn't hit that button quick enough to fly, so.
You know what the laziest video game ever made was?
What's that?
Tempest.
Tempest was cool.
Did you like Tempest?
I did.
Really? I never got...
It was one of the earlier games.
Yeah, true. Like Battlezone.
For what it was at that time, I kind of liken that to when the original Pac-Man came out. But I will tell you, when Miss Pac-Man came out, I was far better at that game. Pac-Man was a lot harder than Miss Pac-Man, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. It's not even
it wasn't even
a question.
Close. Tempest. Yeah, that was a cool game. What about Donkey Kong Jr.?
I loved Donkey Kong. I thought that was way better than the original Donkey Kong.
Yeah, it was a great game. And I remember when the first licensed Major League Baseball game came out. Do you remember that?
No.
Dude, there were lines waiting to play that game, 15 people deep. And I remember it was probably out a good month and a half before I finally got a chance to play it. And I loved it. I probably dropped $10 in that in no time flat. Because I think it was like you played like 2 innings, it was a quarter. And if you wanted to continue your game, you had to, of course, pump more quarters in it. But trying to think what else.
So I found it because it was driving me crazy. And it's crazy. I don't know if they make them anymore, but they're selling on eBay for $600.
Oh, my.
So it's Joust. And how dare I not remember this game because I do play it. Defender.
Oh, yeah. Defender was big.
Yeah, Defender. Gauntlet, which is the one where you can be the wizard or you can be the... And then Rampage, where you can choose the monster and you punch the buildings down.
It was like Kong and like Godzilla-like characters. They weren't licensed, but they looked like them.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
So Where did you get your? Where did you? When and where did
Walmart
you
carried
get
them a
yours?
couple years ago, and they came with a riser, so it stands up nice and tall. And they were big during Christmas. They got bought out. This was probably 2018, and apparently, whoever the warehouse manager was had a few stashed away in a wrong place. And the holidays passed, and I went in there for something one time. I haven't been to a Walmart in over a year. With all this craziness, but I went in there and they had them stacked up for $99 a piece because they were just trying to get rid of them. So I was like, I'm just going to snag it, man, just to have it. And we've had it ever since. And it's a cool thing. People come in, they can turn it on and play some classic video games.
That is cool. Yeah, the classics, man. They were fun, man. The games today, they're just. And it's funny because my 7-year-old daughter. We were my other daughter had her 12th birthday party last Friday, and we went to one of those big it has the arcade, it has the what do you call that where you you're on a line and you go over top what do they call that,
like the little zip lines?
Zip line, thank you. They have a zip line there, really cool place. They have pizza, whatever. So that's where she wanted her party. So you'll get a kick out of this. So I suck at video games. I am not a gamer. I like them, but I suck. And when I say suck, I mean suck. So we're walking around. I'm with her, and she's like, "Daddy, I want to play this racing car game." And it's got the massive screen. It takes like your video picture, puts it on the screen.
Yeah.
So we picked our car. It's all souped up and like incredible graphics. And you can pick the course. So she picked, I think it was in United Kingdom, in Britain or somewhere. So we're playing, and you're racing. There's 12 people. I finished 12th. My 7-year-old finished second. Kids just have this natural God-given ability.
Yeah.
They come out of the womb. They're like great video game players. My 7-year-old, he's now 8. At the time, my 7-year-old nephew, my wife's sister's son. You give him a game, he's got it beat in a day and a half. Me, it would take me 3 months. Unbelievable, dude.
I'm good at sports video games. Which, by the way, I was playing MLB The Show, The Road to the Show. That's where you simulate your career. I was pitching a no-hitter in the 9th with 1 out, and Gabe Kapler comes out and goes to the bullpen. I'm like, I'm pitching a no-hitter, and they took me out. That's one thing I hate about video games is the stupidness. And the other, when I finished the season, I was 21-1, only 1 loss all year with an ERA of like 1.33. And you get to the postseason, they're like, the Phillies have left you off the postseason roster. I'm like, I just won the Cy Young, and you left me off the roster.
Well, what do? Do you play like the manager mode?
No, it's called Road to the Show. That's where you only play your events. So if you're a pitcher, you only play every 5 games, or you just play when you're actually playing.
So you don't have any control over
No.
how long you pitch. That's what confused me, because I'm like, yeah, you should be able to stay in. You control.
As
when
soon as
you
I saw him
put
go,
your
there was a
reliever in,
pause.
but
And
wow.
I'm like, you son of a... And I had it before where I had a no-hitter, and Sir Anthony, whatever that guy's name is, he came in and gave up a hit right away. Lost my no-hitter.
Now, and then I'll leave you with this, since we are on this subject. You know what game I actually like? I've heard a lot about the show. Now, do you have PS?
Yeah, PlayStation.
Or do you have the Xbox?
PlayStation.
Okay, I have Xbox. So if I'm not mistaken, you cannot, which this bugs me, you cannot get MLB The Show under the
Correct.
Xbox platform.
Right.
So they have another one, which I tried it on a whim, and it is spectacular. But I can't remember. Give me a quick sec. I was going to say.
Yeah, while you do that, I also want to touch on. It's funny that you mentioned. So I'm very good at sports games. I'm good at hockey. I'm okay. I was never a huge Madden fan. I
suck.
Yeah, but huh?
I say blow. I blow it, Matt.
Oh, but when the first person shooters starting to get big, Call of Duty, I was never good at first person shooters. And you're playing online, and you got these people talking trash, and I was getting wiped out. And I think I was playing with my buddy. I was still in the military at the time, and he made fun of me. that because they're like, this guy's in the Army, and all these 13-year-old kids are like, you're in the Army? We're screwed, mister. You've gotten killed every time. And they were just ragging on me. I don't play online anymore because those 13-year-old kids wearing me out.
I refuse. I actually played, I think, Madden from like 2 years ago, and I think the kid was messing with me. And yeah, we go out, we play like you can set how many minutes you want the quarters for. So the guy challenged me. He's like, "Hey, you want to play?" Yeah, because you get the challenge, it pops up, you accept it, and I go on. I'm like smoking this dude. This is why I'm thinking he's baiting me. I'm smoking this guy right through 3 quarters, man. It's like I think it was like 35-3. Dude, he beat me like 56-35. He scored like 7 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. He was intercepting me. Everything I threw, I'd throw a pass, he'd intercept it, run it back in. I'm like, okay, that was okay. Okay, let's brush it off. I'd get back on the field, throw another deep pass, intercepted, run it back. Like, yeah, he scored like 3 touchdowns in like under 2 minutes.
Oh, man,
like, okay, this guy's like, bleeping with me. And yeah, he beat me, and I was like, yeah, I'm never playing this again. These kids are like otherworldly, bro.
Yeah.
Like and I know, like, they come home. Half of them probably miss their homework. Some of them do it, but all they do is play video games for hours on end. And I'm telling you, from the moment they leave their mother's womb, they have this God-given talent. You have people that go on to be doctors and physicians and baseball players and professional athletes. These kids are automatic gamers, man. And
Absolutely.
they freaking destroy us adults.
Did you find that baseball title you were looking for?
Oh no! Hold on, let me check. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. All right. Give me a quick second, and I will look it up here for you.
And once again, folks, don't forget our website is theweeklyretro.com. Email theweeklyretro at mail, not Gmail at mail.com. And we'll have a Twitter set up soon. So once we're done a podcast, it'll get tweeted out, and it'll do this. It automatically populates on the website as well. So don't go searching for it. Just go right to our website and check us out there.
All right, George, I am mistaken. You can get MLB The Show 21 on Xbox. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I think this is the first year they're doing that.
Okay, maybe like with with the Players Association copyright, whatever. But it's really cool. They have a couple of different versions. You have the standard that has Fernando Tatis Jr., a great player on the cover. And then they have this. This is actually pretty cool. It's MLB The Show 21, the Jackie Robinson Deluxe Edition.
Yeah.
That is really cool. So the one that I'm referring to, George, which is, I'm telling you, the gameplay is smooth. The pitching is what I like the best. It's so realistic. It's called RBI Baseball 21.
Oh, yeah, that's on PlayStation 2. I'll have to check that. Is it really good?
Oh, I actually had it last year, and you want to talk about realism and just because a lot of games you play, what I didn't like this has been a while when I played them initially. Like you select the pitch. And you can control the where it went in, like as the ball's in flight. Not realistic. This ball, this game, it'll give you like all the different pitches that this actual pitcher throws in the major leagues.
That's awesome.
If he has a changeup, a split finger, he has a spitball, or he has a slider curve, whatever is in his repertoire, you can throw. And once you pick it, you set the catcher where you want him to catch it. But just the fielding is smooth. It's easy. Graphics are unbelievable. It's not one of those games where you have a 7-1 lead, and then in the bottom of the ninth, the other team comes back and beats you 8-7. It's realistic. You got the closers. You got a pitch count. They get fatigued. Like, I think you'd enjoy it. So our listeners out there, if you're into sports games, you're into baseball games, check it out. It's a cool game.
Definitely check that out. And I'll probably get last year's version because sports games, once the new one comes out, the last year is much cheaper. I'll probably get it for $10.
Here is the beauty of it. So the cost. I believe the show is
It's like $60.
$59.99.
Yeah.
The RBI baseball came out, I think, the same week. It's $29.99.
Oh, wow.
So it's half the price. And I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed. You won't.
All right. Well, we will check it out. We're almost closing in on 2 hours. We're going to call it a day there. Look on our website. We have a schedule on there when we come up with our next show date. We'll be sure to put it on there. And down the road, we're going to be looking to do some live shows once we get a good enough audience. We'd love to take your phone calls. We actually have an 800 number set up here, so I'll be able to take phone calls live on the air. Until then, I want to thank everybody. And remember, tomorrow is always better with a memory. Until next time, I'm George for Gunner. We will see you on the flip side. This is March Torch and Caroline.